Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I will add people as they join, and we are so excited to have everyone here for this menopause masterclass. Marissa is going to be sharing. She's a coach on the Hungry Fitness team. Can you guys all see her slides right now? Hopefully, yes. Okay, great. And I think this stage of life for women can feel very overwhelming. We have clients asking us questions all the time on perimenopause and in menopause, what to expect, what symptoms come up, what is normal, what resources are available to us so that we can continue to feel our best in perimenopause and postmenopause. And so we wanted to discuss today and provide education. And then also, if you have questions, if we have time, we'll get to them on the call today. Or if not, maybe we'll do a follow-up call. And this is also something that we will be talking a lot more as far as fat loss is concerned in our fat loss cohort that we are currently doing signups for that launches April 14th. So if you are in this stage and want more education in terms of fat loss during menopause, then that's something we'll be discussing a lot more in our group next month. So if you have questions on that, let us know as well. And I will just turn it over to Marissa.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be doing this today. Through the last 5 years of my career, this is mainly what I've been researching and educating myself on, and also helping clients through. And I know it can be a very emotional journey. So I am very excited to just give more education out there, because what I have found is what gets really frustrating is we think what worked in our 20s and 30s is going to work now, and all of a sudden what worked before doesn't work anymore, and we're wondering why, and that gets really frustrating. So I'm hoping to shed some light on education to not only achieve fitness goals and achieve body comp goals, but also just to make sure you feel really great while going through these life changes. You'll have to excuse me, my screen's only showing the slides, so I can't see anyone else. So if you need to interrupt me, Michaela or Sam, just let me know.
Hey.
So I'm going to start off. We're going to define what menopause is, the signs and symptoms of menopause, some natural ways of relieving those symptoms, how it can affect your daily life, and how you can feel your best going through perimenopause and menopause. So what is menopause? It is the natural end of menstruation, making the end of a woman's reproductive phase, typically occurring between ages 45 and 55, but it can actually start as early as 35. I'm actually 36 and I got some lab work done, and my doctor said that I could be experiencing early perimenopause symptoms. So it can really start as early as your mid 30s. An official diagnosis of menopause can be made clinically once you've had a full year without a cycle. And that can be very frustrating as well, because I've seen many clients, get to that 11-month mark without a cycle. And then all of a sudden they cycle, and you'll still be considered perimenopause for a whole other year until you go a complete year without a period. Menopause is a result of declining hormone levels. Hormones play a crucial role during this phase. Estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, all undergo fluctuations, impacting our bodies in various ways. These hormone changes can affect our mood, our sleep, metabolism, libido, and bone density. So no wonder why all of a sudden this comes on and we don't feel like ourselves anymore. So what can hormone imbalances look like? A big thing I hear is, why can't I lose weight doing the same things that have always worked in the past? And, I woke up one morning and all of a sudden I feel like I gained 10 pounds in my belly area. And nothing's working anymore. Nothing has changed. Brain fog, mood swings, and anxiety. Exhausted all the time and you don't know why. Acne or dry skin can be a good representation of hormones being imbalanced. And then feeling off, maybe getting some general lab work through your OBGYN, but doctors don't take you seriously or just say, it's normal, this is just a phase of life. So these are some big symptoms of menopause and possible low estrogen that you can kind of start to resonate with if you are starting perimenopause, or you're already in perimenopause going into menopause. So hot flashes are a big thing we hear about all the time. Night sweats, poor memory, so drawing blanks mid-sentence, or maybe I do this still, but walk into a room and all of a sudden you have no idea why you're there.
This could also just be motherhood, right?
I was about to say I've been experiencing that for 15 years, but
Yeah.
that is a symptom. Depression, anxiety, or both. Maybe faster wrinkles than you've noticed before, trouble sleeping and waking up in the middle of the night, achy joints. So I see this a lot too, like no injuries, but all of a sudden knees are achy, hips are achy, shoulders are achy. That could definitely be a sign of low estrogen. Recent or frequent injuries, loss of interest in exercise, loss of interest overall. And I think that goes back to depression and anxiety, where maybe things that we were super excited about before, that we loved before, all of a sudden we're like, I could do without, I don't really care. Bone loss, vaginal dryness, low libido, and painful intercourse. Menopause symptoms that have to do with low testosterone, again, low libido. Do you feel like you lift weights, but you are not gaining any muscle, no matter like what program you're on? If you're really focusing on progressive overload, getting your sleep, all these things, and you're like, feel like you're just spinning your wheels. Muscle weakness, constant fatigue, weight gain out of nowhere, and loss of bone density. So I wanted to touch on this because I am not a practitioner, but I know a lot of people going into perimenopause and menopause. We talk about HRT a lot. And if you're on any kind of social media, which I'm assuming we all are, you hear a lot about it. And it can be really confusing. And, there's some clients that I've had in the past that are all for it and others that are a little bit apprehensive. I will say to start out, that HRT won't do much if we don't change our lifestyle first. So anytime I have a client that's interested in HRT, I always say, let's get the basics down first. Let's see how you feel. And then that can definitely be a tool, and it's very, very helpful. In fact, I'm on HRT myself, but if lifestyle changes aren't in place first, you're not going to experience the full benefits of HRT, and it's going to continue to be frustrating, and you're going to continue to spin those wheels. So always talk to your doctor first, but I wanted to go over some things that if you're not ready for hormone replacement therapy yet, what can we do naturally? So, and these are things that will make a big difference, but we also have to remember that they are supplementation or just minor things that we're adding into our daily life. So maca powder is derived from the maca root, and it is often used as a natural remedy to help alleviate menopause symptoms. I actually had my mother-in-law on this, and she really felt a great relief in a lot of menopause symptoms. So it is something to think about. Soy products you have to be careful with, but it can actually bring up estrogen naturally. A lot of people though have some like gut issues with soy products. So sometimes you'll feel extra bloated. A lot of times people get acne and things like that. So if you're sensitive to soy products, please be careful with that. Vitamin E. And then, of course, some natural things we always want to do is prioritize protein. That's going to be really, really important. And I'm going to discuss that a little bit further into this class. But prioritizing protein, eating plenty of fiber, sleep is so important. And of course, it's one of those things that's affected by our hormones changing, but really, really prioritizing stress management and sleep will help so much. And then, of course, weightlifting, prioritizing compound movements and lifting heavy to make sure that we're building muscle, we're supporting our metabolism in that way, but we're also supporting our bones. So blood sugar imbalance is very common through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. That's definitely something I see a lot of, is just being more insulin resistant. So I did list some supplementation that can help with this. Again, it is supplementation. So we're going to have to really focus on lifestyle changes as well, but these will slightly help. So COQ10, and again, these are all going to be stuff that I would talk to your doctor about before starting as well. L-carnitine helps with the mitochondria powerhouse of cell and reduces inflammation. chromium improves insulin sensitivity, excuse me. Cinnamon is a great thing to add in. It also improves insulin sensitivity. So just adding cinnamon to your food can help a lot. Biotin, which a lot of multivitamins have already, is essential role in carbohydrate and fat metabolizing. Magnesium glycinate, which I truly feel like every person should be taking magnesium. It helps us sleep. It helps bring inflammation down. It can help with anxiety and depression, and all around a really, really great tool. I think I recommend magnesium to every single client I have. I
Yeah.
typically recommend 500 milligrams at night before bed. High quality fish oil or adding in fatty fish throughout your week. So I'll try to get my clients to have 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish throughout the week. That also helps with digestion and reduce inflammation. Alpha lipoic acid can reduce blood sugar significantly. Um, berberine improves insulin sensitivity like metformin. So berberine, and I don't think I'm pronouncing it correctly, I always do that, but it is something that you have to be careful with. It's not something that you can take daily forever. It is something that you have to cycle through. So it'd be really great to either do that with a one-on-one coach, or again, talk to your doctor about that first. Or in a inositol, or for insulin resistance. And excuse me, I always pronounce that one wrong as well. Any questions or anything on supplementation? I'm not able to pull up the chat right now.
I'm just answering them. Someone asked about just recommended dosages. So,
Awesome.
and also symptoms being resonating.
And at the end too, if there's any questions that come in that you want me to go over a little bit more in depth, just let me know. All right. So,
One thing I was going to say on supplements, like all things, right? It's not just like take it all and it's all going to benefit you. It's really looking at symptoms and then seeing, okay, could I benefit from maybe adding this one thing in and then seeing how you feel and then maybe adding another thing in. I think some things I'm like all women should take. Magnesium glycinate, high quality fish oil, those are things. I would also add creatine to that list, things that almost every woman could benefit from, especially in this stage of life. But the other ones, it might come down to symptoms. One resource I wanted to just share too for like troubleshooting if you don't have a coach and you want help, because it's going to be really individual in a lot of cases. It comes down to like, what's your diet like currently? What's your lifestyle like? What are your stressors like? And if working with a coach, it'll be easier for us to provide recommendations, but that might not be an option for everyone. I just grabbed this book because I don't know, it's called the Hormone Repair Manual. And I'm sure Marissa maybe will reference it, but Laura Brydon, this is a really good book for if you are wanting to kind of troubleshoot things, especially on the supplement side. She has a lot of recommendations based off of what you are personally experiencing. So if maybe you're considering HRT, like that might be the route that you want to go. But maybe I think really like Marissa said, even if you are going to choose HRT, making sure you are also taking care of diet, and then also training, stress, sleep, all of the things that are really going to benefit you first. And then also maybe looking at supplements too.
mhm. Absolutely. I love that book. I still go through it all the time. I truly feel like that's one book that anyone that's 30 plus should have.
Yeah, and if you're 35 and under, her period repair manual book is fantastic too. So if you are a mom and maybe you have like teenage daughters, get both. Or if you're younger and you just want to be knowledgeable, then the period repair manual is really fantastic. And then the hormone repair manual is also great. So I've kind of shifted which ones I'm using with a lot of clients as our clients are aging with us. And so, yeah. I'll put a link for it in the chat.
Awesome. So if you are looking to go towards that more HRT route, you're always going to want to get lab work done. I have found that a lot of times doctors don't go more in depth with lab work, or they just won't order it, unfortunately. And so a lot of times you'll go into your doctor and you'll say, these are my symptoms. And I either hear that they order lab work and they tell you, well, you're on the normal side. And you could be on the very low end of normal and they will still tell you you're normal, which can be frustrating. or they won't just order all labs that are needed. So just make sure that when you do get lab work done, we have a set of lab work that we recommend as well. And maybe Michaela can drop that link in there
Yeah.
as just to go over all sex hormones, thyroid, where everything's at, so you can get a really good in-depth look at what's going on. And I always say advocate for yourself. If you have symptoms that you feel are not normal, please advocate for yourselves to your doctors, just because I know there's some terrific doctors out there, but a lot of times women are pushed off and they're told that, you're going through menopause, these symptoms are normal, when you don't have to suffer through them. And I see it time and time again, like you don't have to feel the way you do all the time. And there is ways of advocating for yourself and saying, this isn't normal. A lot of it does come down to lifestyle changes, but getting in-depth lab work done, seeing where you're at, and then even, maybe getting on HRT can be really, really helpful. All right. So the big one I always hear is about menopause and fat loss. Is it possible? Things don't work anymore. I've tried everything. So do the rules of fat loss change during menopause? The answer is yes and no. And it's very customized person to person, depending on where you're at. So this is a very general overview. But the way our bodies burn and store fat does change with menopause. But the same fat loss principles still apply, with a few unique adjustments and considerations. So during any phase of menopause, a lot of changes are taking place. Our hormones shift, we're storing more fat than normal, our metabolism feels like it's slowing down, burning fewer calories. Our sleep often gets disrupted, increasing food cravings and energy. Our energy level drops, which can reduce activity levels. Each of these changes would be challenging on its own. And then, of course, you put them all together, we're experiencing it all at once, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And what am I supposed to do now? So we can take back control of our lives and our fat loss goals with what we call the new rules of menopausal fat loss. So the big thing I see with women dealing with menopause is constantly under eating. And a lot of times that even happened way before perimenopause even started, is we have constantly been in a diet or under eating calories for so long. So the first thing I'll say to anyone that is going through that and is very frustrated with everything going on is actually building calories back up and eating at maintenance for at least, and that's minimum, 4 weeks. I typically recommend a little bit more. I've had people do it for 6 months before I take them into any fat loss phase, just because, again, we want to get energy up. We want to get metabolism up. We want you to feel good. We want you to sleep. We want to reduce stress. All of these things that are going on in your body, we want to help alleviate as much as possible. And constantly under eating is never going to do that. So constantly
And
try.
I
Oh,
was just
sorry.
going to say, it takes a while to get where we are in a state of just stress, right? And so to think that you can just resolve all the stress on your body in a week or two of eating at maintenance, it's going to take time. So I think too, just like knowing that, especially with hormone shifts and not just sex hormones, but thyroid hormones and just all the things that are impacted when we're chronically under eating, it's going to take time to get your body into homeostasis. And so give yourself 6 months. If it takes less than that, then that's fantastic. But there's so many things you can work on to improve your body composition by eating at maintenance. You don't have to be in a calorie deficit all the time.
Right. And it's scary. That mindset shift is
Yeah.
scary. I went through it myself. And, all of a sudden, when you're used to eating 1,200 calories and someone's telling you to build up to 1,800 or 2,000 calories or even higher than that, you're like, this is exact opposite of what I was wanting. But I promise it is so worth it. So constantly trying to eat too little robs the body of the raw materials and nutrient it needs for proper hormone production. That's a huge thing, is we're actually throwing our hormones even further out of place because of we're constantly under eating. So this also creates internal stress, signaling the metabolisms to slow down fat burning each day. Instead, eating at maintenance calories sends a strong signal to our bodies to support hormone and metabolic function. So this is huge. A lot of times, even within a reverse, especially my clients going through perimenopause and menopause, we see really terrific body composition changes just building them back up to maintenance, because all of a sudden their body is relieving stress, you're sleeping better, you have more energy, and it wants to work for you again. Um, the boost in hormone and metabolic function sets us up to lose more fat with less effort when we move into a dieting phase in the future. So eating at maintenance for at least a few weeks can also improve sleep and energy levels. So what happens too if we're constantly under eating? The last thing I want to do is when I wake up and I'm so tired because I'm under fueled is go and get a really great workout in and get in all my steps and do everything I have to do. I'd rather just sit on the couch and not do anything. So it kind of hurts us in the long run because we're actually eating a lot less. We feel horrible, but now we don't want to also move at all. And so that's where I go into the second part of this is really prioritizing strength training over something that's very high intensity. I see a lot of people also, that rule that we always hear is eat less, burn more. That's how we lose weight, which, yes, there is some truth to that. But also, if you're putting your body constantly under stress, you're under eating, your body doesn't know what to do. So, eating more at maintenance and then prioritizing strength training is really going to be helpful here. It will not make you bulky. That's an urban myth created by the supplement industry to sell more products to women. What actually happens when we strength train as menopausal women is that we build a more toned and defined body. And we're also increasing bone density here as well. So strength training is like a fountain of youth for menopausal women because it increases metabolism and hormone function while boosting mood, energy levels, and bone density. Is there anything you want to add on that, Michaela?
No, I just think it's like it can just be such a steamroll effect of if we're chronically under eating and our hormones are shifting, then we're getting terrible sleep, and then our hunger is impacted. Like we're going to that's if we're not sleeping, then we're going to be more hungry throughout the day, and we're going to be less resilient to stress, which is going to make it a lot harder to do all the things that are going to benefit us in seeing the body composition change that we want to see. So I just like can't stress that enough. If you're scared to add more food, just know that it's going to positively benefit all the areas, like basically it's going to positively benefit you, and so that you are more resilient to stress, so that later you can implement a calorie deficit and handle that stress and see really positive results. um yeah, someone just commented, Dina just said, I always have a terrible night's sleep if I don't eat enough. And so powerful that you have been able to recognize that and see that correlation, because a lot of women don't. They do not recognize that. So I just, yeah, cannot emphasize that enough. I think there's so much fear around eating more or lifting weights, thinking I'm just gonna like blow up overnight. And probably, yes, if you start eating more and you implement weight training, you are going to see an increase on the scale initially. Like push through that, because over time that's going to level up, that's going to come down, and you're going to feel such a huge change in how you feel and also how you look, and it all can work in your favor. I think I always say with clients, like, we're not talking about anything magic here in perimenopause and in postmenopause, but the things that matter for everyone else matter more for you. Like it's a lot of the same things, they just matter more now because you have other things working against you.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I see all the time is it's very, very uncomfortable at first because we've spent our whole lives eating less and burning as many calories as possible and doing HIIT and doing all these crazy things. So for someone to tell you, hey, to achieve the results that you got in like your 20s or 30s, I want you to go the exact opposite way. It's like this mindset shift that we can't wrap our heads around. And it can be really uncomfortable. But if you can embrace being uncomfortable for a little bit, the other side of it is something so terrific because all of a sudden you're eating more, you feel great, digestion's awesome, you're sleeping better, energy's through the roof, you have this body that you love again. But it does take a little bit of time and you have to be uncomfortable for a little bit. So you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable for a while.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And so the third thing, and again, it's something that I think it's very looked over, is prioritize walking over long, stressful cardio. The one thing I really do look at through my clients with perimenopause and menopause is what additional stress are we adding to our body right now? And how can we take away that additional stress just to get your body in this happy, healthy, state that we can lose body fat in. So a lot of times I will take out a lot of the high intensity training, a lot of that like zone 4, zone 5 training that we love to do because we think it burns 1,000,000 calories and that's how we're going to get results. But I typically recommend my clients only do strength training. So really focus on progressive overload. And we're going to have a step goal that we really work to hit every day. Now, once we get your body in this happy, healthy state, if we want to start adding in a little bit of like high intensity training and cardio, I'm all for it. But I definitely recommend taking it down the cardio a little bit when going through perimenopause and menopause, just because you're adding more stress to your body. And a lot of times we're under eating doing those things too. So not only are we under eating, hormones are all over the place. Now we're adding even more stress by doing a ton of high intensity things. And then you add stress in from our kids and our jobs and our husbands and all these other things. And we want to minimize that as much as possible. So walking is the most underutilized fat loss tool for menopausal women. And I truly believe that. Unlike traditional cardio, walking doesn't increase stress in the body and can be done every day without straining our hips or our joints. And it's so great for mental health. And I know we've talked a lot about walking on our team. I know all the coaches do, but it truly can be such a stress relief. Like when I'm stressed, I'll put on my headphones, listen to a podcast, and I go out in sunshine even in the winter, and I just get a long walk in, and it helps my energy, it helps my mindset, and I feel like I can be like a better mom, a better wife, and I just feel better overall just from a simple walk. So traditional cardio raises stress hormones that can interfere with hormone function and lower metabolism, while also worsening food cravings and causing pain in knees, hips, and lower back. So if you're constantly under eating and then on top of it, you're doing high intensity cardio all the time and you're so hungry, you're just increasing your hunger hormone, you're increasing stress in your body, and it makes it a lot harder to focus on eating, within our calories or whatever it is, but also the cravings get really bad. And I tend to see a lot of my clients go towards like sugar and carbs and chips and things at night. For one, they underate all day, then they added high intensity cardio, and then by the time nighttime comes, they want to go binge. Walking burns about the same number of calories as traditional cardio, depending on how long you walk, but without the excess stress or achy joints. So while menopause does change how we lose fat, it can be done with the right game plan. And that is all.
Maria, someone just asked who can guide us through that higher calorie intake? Is that one-on-one coaching? Do you want to talk a little bit about just like what that typically looks like when a client comes in and they're chronically under eating, over exercising, can't lose weight to save their life? Like what does that look like in terms of coaching as far as like maybe some strategies that you use? I know you just talked about them, but also maybe timeline and expectations.
Awesome. Yeah, let me stop my share really quick if that's okay.
Yes.
I can see everyone. There we go. Um, Absolutely. So when a client comes into one-on-one coaching and they're experiencing most or all these symptoms, I always have them track for at least a few days, preferably a week first. I want to see what you're eating and exactly where you're at, because I tend to want to meet a client where they're at to begin. If you're eating 1,200 calories and I come in and I'm like, okay, let's eat 1,800 calories. One, you're going to hate me because you're going to feel so full and bloated all the time. Two, I promise you, you'll message me 10 times a day telling me how full and how you can't eat all this food. So if you're coming in eating at 1,200 calories, for example, I'm probably going to put you at 1,400, get you comfortable there and slowly build up. It is typically a little bit of a slower process at first, but then I'm also going to start incorporating lifestyle changes as well. So, what's your fiber at? What's your protein at? What does your workouts look like? And slowly modify to kind of meet you where you're at, but get you to this place where your body's healthy and happy. Like Michaela said, typically, 4 to 6 months in, You're going to feel really, really great. We've built a really great foundation. We've got your body very happy. You're feeling good. Then we can talk more about a fat loss phase. And it's funny because you come in at 1,200 calories, you tell me I can't lose body fat at all. In fact, I'm gaining. All of a sudden we build you through maintenance. And then in our fat loss phase, I'm cutting you at 1,600 calories, and you're actually losing body fat. You're feeling good and you're able to keep up with your workout. So it's a little bit of a slower process depending on where you're starting from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then going off that, like something else that we can do too is with the one-on-one coaching, we can look at what's happening internally. We can look at your blood work. We can see if there's any those factors that you talked about that may be working against us, that maybe we really need to put a lot of our attention towards sunlight or towards the stressors because we are seeing some inflammatory markers. So we can also look at that and use that as a guide for number one to help you advocate to your doctor for some things that we might be seeing, but as well as maybe there's certain aspects of the lifestyle, not just the diet and the training alone, but the lifestyle that we can prioritize more so than if we didn't know anything, kind of what was going on internally too.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's so easy when you are doing something on your own to obsess about something, like maybe obsess about the scale and feel like you are not making any progress. And so having a coach to help you zoom out on the big picture and see, okay, maybe the scale isn't changing right now while we're building calorie intake back up and while we're doing all these things, but what biofeedback is improving? Sleep is better, digestion is better. Maybe you have just more energy and patience with your family. Maybe your libido is up. There's so many ways to assess progress and to be able to see kind of what direction we're going. And then as a coach, if we're looking at that each week, we're able to give new strategies and help make adjustments and help you be able to have a more objective view of your progress, which is everything. And then also just having someone in your corner. Like when you do, there are going to be roadblocks. Like when you're making changes with habits, it can be simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy, especially when we have such full lives. Typically women that are in perimenopause and menopause are busy. Like this stage of life is not simple and easy for most of us, and we have a lot of demands placed on us. And so when we need strategies, it's really nice and helpful to have a coach in real time to know that knows you and knows what your demands are, that can give you suggestions that actually work for your life. So I think that's really helpful too. And one-on-one coaching is definitely like the ultimate way, I think, to achieve results, because you have one person that knows a lot about you and knows your struggles and can give you individual strategies. But we also have our group coaching option too, where we help implement all of these habits in a way that's going to be really like easy and doable for most people at this stage of life. So that's something that we want to provide at Hungry Fitness. That's why we have our fat loss cohort, so that we can really dive into all of these areas more in depth. Because I personally believe that the more education we have, the more empowered we are in the decisions that we make. And so our goal is always to provide more education so that you have tools that you can use to make the right decision for you, because that's going to look different than your neighbor or your sister or someone in your workout class that you're in. So having tools and education just allows for you to feel empowered and know what your options are in this stage. And I think everything that Marissa talked about, like start there, and then we can have more discussions. If you're still feeling like things are suboptimal, which they might be, then we have more tools that we can layer in through supplements, or maybe just having discussions on pros and cons of HRT and like what your options are when it comes to HRT, so that you can have an educated conversation with your practitioner as well.
Absolutely. And I think too, a lot of things I've noticed in one-on-one coaching, and this is through anyone, not just perimenopause and menopause, is you have someone to take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
I've even had my own coach in the past to where like it's very emotional, and I've seen, the scale go up and I'm like, wait, this is not what we talked about. And it's like, okay, but let's take a step back and now look at the science. Like what's going on? Let me explain to you without emotion. It's same thing as like a therapist. You can go to a therapist and talk to them, and they're going to explain things without the emotion that you feel, because it is such an emotional journey, which I feel like is super helpful.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think we could obviously get a lot more in depth on this, and this is something to with our fat loss cohort next month or with one-on-one coaching, we can talk a lot more in our groups or one-on-one, like what are you experiencing right now? What symptoms specifically are you having? And how can we provide some tools and solutions and strategies so that you can continue to improve those? So if you guys have questions, and maybe you're not in one-on-one coaching or our fat loss cohort, but you're in the app, then ask away in our groups, and we would love to help problem solve and troubleshoot with you in this stage. Anything, Sam or Marissa, you guys want to add?
I don't.
I was just gonna say, like for most, it's the perimenopausal phase that tends to be the worst as far as symptoms go.
Yeah.
So once we hit menopause, it's kind of like just, you know, you're cruising now. Like you're used to it. Your hormones are just there. But when we're going through the ups and downs and all of these hormonal changes, estrogen dropping, like all of them just slowly dropping, and then maybe we go up and then down. Like that's the whirlwind of it all, and getting help sooner rather than later. And as far as just making these changes, eating more and doing all of these things can be really, really helpful. Again, getting ahead of the game as opposed to, menopausal when we no longer do have the estrogen or testosterone. And for all of it, yes, we can use HRT and we can kind of mitigate the symptoms as much as possible with supplements, HRT, and lifestyle, diet, and changes like that. But again, just like anything, the sooner you get on top of it and start taking care of yourself, advocating for yourself, the better you're going to feel, and you're not going to dig that deep hole that we tend to feel like we're just like stuck in and we kind of can't get out of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with hormones fluctuating and kind of that roller coaster effect, it can definitely be like that what you are feeling and the symptoms you're experiencing can absolutely be improved through diet and lifestyle. And then if you need more support, supplementation and maybe looking into HRT are all options for you. So I think just knowing what your options are and being able to just assess like risk versus reward is everything in this stage. The perimenopause was worse and the months right around the beginning of menopause. Now I have the extra weight clinging to my body. And that's one thing too, is I think like we talked about, fat storage can basically happen. Like your body is more likely to store fat, but also fat distribution, like where you store fat, is changing in perimenopause and in menopause. And we tend to store more belly fat. And so sometimes we're not even like we aren't gaining more fat. It's just where it's showing up in our body. So it can feel worse. And so I think looking at that too, getting a DEXA scan can be really helpful and assessing like, how much lean tissue do I have? How much body fat do I have? What is my bone density? And then, okay, those are objective things that I can now work on, and looking at data instead of how we feel, right? And so that's helpful. And then also recognizing too, if we do have extra weight, how can we implement a calorie deficit and be successful? And if we're under eating and we're over exercising, there's not a lot of room to do that. So what do we do now? Like we need to hit pause on our fat loss goals. I know that can be really frustrating, but maybe pause that right now and take 6 months to get our body in an optimal place so that we can implement a calorie deficit and see progress and have it be one that we can do and have it feel good. Like we're not cutting on 1100 calories. Now we're cutting on 16, 17, 1800 calories and feeling good. And that isn't something that you can do overnight. So I think
I
that's
have to
important.
remind yourself of the end goal. Like it's not like you're already experiencing, like you're already in it. It's already hard. You're already, have the fat where you don't want it to be. You've tried all these things before. So, you know, sometimes you just have to take a leap and try something that you haven't tried before and kind of just trust it, knowing that, what you're doing now isn't working. So let's just try something else. And we can try a few things, give it several months. If it's not working, guess what? We can adjust, we can adapt, and we can overcome, together.
Yeah. Thank you, Marissa. And thank you everyone for joining. And yes, as always, if you have questions, ask them in the groups. And if you want, maybe if you have further questions, we'll do a follow-up call. But this is something we will get a little bit more individual on, especially specific to fat loss in our cohort next month. So if you have any questions about that as well, reach out and let us know. We hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.